Let's cross over to Parliament because Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is briefing the House.
For a better life for all is palpable. They were, Mr. Speaker, in particular, they want everyone to pay taxes. They want government to be accessible. They want Parliament to get to work. They want employment for our youth. They want agriculture and industry to thrive. And they want us to tackle our debt problem and raise more revenue and to prosecute offenders. Mr. Speaker, during the period, the mobile money operators agreed to reduce their charges by 25 percentage points to bring their charges on the transfer to 0.75%. Mr. Speaker, in light of these discussions, and in that same great spirit of cooperation, government has also decided to reduce the rate of the levy from 1.75% of the transfer to 1.5% of the transfer. The coverage of the levy with respect to transfers from bank accounts of individuals has also been clarified as bank transfers on an instant pay digital platform or application originating from a bank account belonging to an individual subject to a daily threshold to be determined by the minister. Mr. Speaker, at the consideration stage, I'll be bringing the necessary amendments to reflect these changes. Mr. Speaker, further to this, and to ensure accountability, government shall, as part of the mid-year review and annual budget statement, provide a statement showing the quantum of levy collected and the purposes for which it has been applied. I'd like to thank the House for the accommodation during these 4 months. As a nation, there will be many battles, but for us as a people, the battle remains the law. And its time is the right time. I pray the House indulgence for full passage of the E-Levy bill. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Chairman of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion and in the process present your committee's report. Mr. Speaker, the Electronic Transfer Levy Bill 2021 was presented and read the first time in the House on Thursday.
Been distributed a long time ago.
Was presented to the House on Thursday, the 16th of December 2021. Mr. Speaker, the committee met with officials from...
Honorable Chairman, I see the minority leader on. Yes, what is it?
Mr. Speaker, the danger of us being in the known. Members want copies, so if you can direct the table to be making available. Yes, you made it available before we went on adjournment. We were just told that you are taking the motion now. So it's fair that members are given copies. So kindly direct the table to ensure that once he's on his feet, I have my copy, the Honorable Ato has his copy. We will follow you. But members are entitled to copies of the committee's report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, my minority leader, you are just drawing my attention to it. I'm not aware that members have not been given copies of it. Honorable members, please, honorable members, it's right for you to confirm what the minority leader has said. After that confirmation, we just have to give opportunity for the speaker to to give a ruling in the matter. You don't keep on talking till doomsday. You have supported the point he made. I'm not aware. He has drawn my attention. You have confirmed that, yes, you don't have copies. So I will listen to the majority leader and we'll see why copies have not been given to you, or if they've been given to you and you have misplaced it, we'll get to know. Yes, majority leader.
And he even said they should.
Mr. Speaker, if I heard the minority leader well, I think the indication he gave is that now that the motion is been moved, if members could have copies of the report in order to be able to follow the debate. I think it's a legitimate request. However, the truth of the matter is that this report has been circulated to us since last year. Mr. Speaker, if I may, I'm not sure that any one of us in this house would say that is not had a copy of this report. We've had copies of this report. If the issue is that, yes,
Honourable members, please give him the opportunity. You will get yours. Give him the opportunity. He's a leader of the house. At least give some modicum of respect to your leaders. You all have opportunity. We'll give you. Please.
Mr. Speaker, the point I was making is that members have been given copies. It's been quite a long while ago. And if I listen to the minority leader, the application that he submitted, he said, given the circumstance, he was making an application that members be said whilst the debate goes on. Mr. Speaker, that is the import of his application. And I agree that because of the length of time that has passed since it was circulated to members, if the request is that, can we have additional supply of the reports? Mr. Speaker, is legitimate. But as a matter of the records, this report has been given to us. But I agree with him that the table officers must make every effort while the debate is going on to have the reports redistributed to all of us. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Yes, Deputy Whip, minority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, it is a fact that on the 17th of November, December 2021, this report was distributed. A procedural motion was moved. Hair count, a division was called on the procedural motions. About 38 people voted as to whether it should be taken under certificate of urgency, and there was disorder, so it became inconclusive. Mr. Speaker, last week we were pushing for certainty so that members will be aware as to whether the report was to be taken this week, so that coming from our various houses, we come with the report. So the concern that was being raised by the minority leader was to draw your attention that members from last week to this morning were not aware that this motion was going to be moved today. And as a result of that, their reports or copies of their report are not with them. So we are both on the same page. If additional copies cannot be distributed to members, then maybe we can suspend for members to go to their offices and bring their copies. These are two options. We either take option A by distributing additional copies, or option B by suspending for members to go to their offices and bring the copies. Mr. Speaker, case closed.
Deputy Whip, minority, you can't just close the case like that. Yes, Honorable Lafiamako.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Order 212, Sub-Rule 2 and Sub-Rule 3. Mr. Speaker, the matter that confronts us is the fact that the Finance Committee seeks to lay the report of the bill in question and get the House to debate it. Mr. Speaker, customarily, by way of practice, members ought to have this report read through, be prepared to be able to debate the principles properly. Mr. Speaker, that was why last week we were seeking guidance from the business statement to be able to be prepared for this week. We've been surprised this morning, and all we are demanding, Mr. Speaker, is to be given 30 minutes at least to be able to read the report and be ready to debate it forcefully with them and make our point. That's all we demand, Mr. Speaker. 30 minutes to 12 minutes. 30 minutes. 30 minutes.
Well, after listening to both sides and distributed to members, and members, because of the issue, its impact, you're dealing with taxation of the people. It has generated a lot of interest, not just public interest, international. And so I'm sure that members will have taken time to read it because you debated it outside the floor of this House. But if you want to have the copies available to be referring to, the copies are being distributed now. I don't think it's proper for us to suspend the sitting. I want us to continue, but I'll give enough time for you to read through the report and to be able to make meaningful contribution. I'll be compelled now to reduce the time limits for members as initially proposed by leadership, because as I indicated, we need to adjourn early for the House to be put in order, for some rehearsal to be taken on before tomorrow. So, honorable members, you are entitled to take a position in this matter, and that position will be articulated and voted on. So that one is for you to decide, not for Speaker. And so let's continue. Let the motion be seconded, and then we'll give you opportunity. In fact, your ranking member is so fired up that he's been itching to put across his views. I am observing him, and he's very fired up. And so let's allow the chairman of the committee to second the motion. Please, Chairman, you may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion and in the process present your committee's report. Mr. Speaker, I request the Handler Department to capture the full content of the report whilst I take the highlights. Mr. Speaker, you referred this, you made this referral to the Finance Committee on the 16th of December 2021. We met the Finance Minister, the Communication Minister, the Minister of State, and the Ministry of Finance, and a number of officers from the Ministry of Finance to help us consider the referral. Mr. Speaker, as a committee, the Minister requested that we take this referral under certificate of urgency. Mr. Speaker, the committee considered it, deliberated on it considerably, and decided we have to put it to a vote. Mr. Speaker, all 12 members of the minority NDC voted against we granting that request to the minister, whilst all 12 members on the majority side also voted in favor of granting the request. Mr. Speaker, in view of the need to get this revenue stream into the appropriation we ourselves had approved, your humble and able chairman of the committee cast his vote in favor of granting the request. Accordingly, the committee determined that we take this under certificate of urgency. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, the committee actually did make some amendments, which amendments I will take when we get to the consideration stage. But in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, the entire 12 members of the minority caucus on the committee declined recommending this referral to the House for passage. However, the committee, by a majority decision, recommends to this House to adopt this report and pass the Electronic Transfer Levy Bill 2021 into law, subject to the amendment proposed in accordance with Article 106 of the Constitution. Respectfully submitted, I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Your last submission is definitely out of place because the motion was moved by the minister. And so what you were doing was just supporting, and so you can't be moving the motion. You are not even seconding it because under 8.1, second reading and consideration stage don't need any secondment. And so I'll give the opportunity to the ranking member who are there to be so fired up, and graciously have been prevailed upon to give him some more time, being the key personality from the other side of the House to respond to the motion. So, Honorable Ranking Member, please, you may do so now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you have indeed disarmed me. But to start with, Mr. Speaker, can you imagine being taxed for the purposes of withdrawing your own cash from your own bank account? Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, this is what is going to happen to millions of Ghanaians, and most importantly, thousands of my constituents, if this bill successfully passed through Parliament, and Mr. Speaker, the President ascending to it. Mr. Speaker, I say this for a simple reason that the structure and design of this tax is taking money from the pocket of the ordinary Ghanaian. Mr. Speaker, let it be recorded today that the NDC minority opposes this tax with all strength within us for a simple reason that we do not believe that mobile money should be taxed. Mr. Speaker, our position is that don't tax Momo. Don't tax Momo. Mr. Speaker, I repeat, our position is don't tax Momo. Don't tax Momo. Don't tax Momo. Honorable Minister, let me put on record that we are not against taxation. The NDC, as a social democratic party, do not believe that we should design a tax that is regressive and punitive. My position against this tax is not personal, Mr. Speaker, but it is based on sound technical reasons. Mr. Speaker, as a tax professional, I cannot sit for this tax policy to go through without drawing the attention of government about the negative impact on our economy. Mr. Speaker, we believe that this tax is not only regressive, but indeed punitive. Mr. Speaker, most importantly, this single tax policy is distortionary, and it will have a negative impact on the Ghanaian economy. What I'm worried about is the fact that it's going to create a lot of dead weight losses within our economy. And that is why, Mr. Speaker,
I'm pointing to our minister responsible for finance to rethink. Mr. Speaker, in the last few days, I've read around and I've heard some of our colleague ministers saying that this tax is equivalent to digital service tax in somewhere in England. Mr. Speaker, for the records, this is not a digital service tax. This is a tax on mobile money. UK do not operate a mobile money tax system. And nowhere in Europe do they charge a tax on mobile money system. So, Speaker, the tax that is before us is nothing but a tax on mobile money, period. And let it be accepted. Mr. Speaker, we are saying that we believe that there are two types of taxes. The first one is a direct tax, and the second one is an indirect tax. Mr. Speaker, when you come to domestic taxation, there's no any other tax apart from these two types of taxes. Direct taxes are taxes that are imposed on income, whether direct income or passive income. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, most countries, they have designed taxes in a way to identify new streams of income within the economy, and they've taxed them appropriately. I urge the minister responsible for finance to look at those areas and tax them appropriately. Mr. Speaker, since the country is moving and changing in terms of structure, there are new streams of taxes that we can tax them, and not to concentrate on this mobile money tax. Mr. Speaker, the other tax domestically that we can look for is what we call the indirect tax. Mr. Speaker, most economists call it taxation on consumption. And the consumption tax like VAT, like the communication taxes, service tax, are the new streams of taxes that you can impose relating to consumption. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, this mobile money tax we are talking about, is neither direct tax or indirect tax. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, we are saying that our position as the minority group in Parliament is that don't tax Momo. This is because this tax is not direct or indirect tax. Mr. Speaker, it is a new tax that is not known in any economic history. It's a new tax that is alien to the development of our country. Mr. Speaker, let it be recorded once again that I believe that posterity will judge us. Posterity will prove to us that we oppose this tax for a simple reason that we did it in the interest of this country. Mr. Speaker, let me also say that this mobile money tax that we have been called upon to approve is rather a tax on medium of exchange, a tax on capital, a tax on savings, in fact, a tax on pensions, Mr. Speaker, and most importantly, we've been told that it is going to be a tax on individual bank transfers. Mr. Speaker, let me first start with the tax on medium of exchange. Mr. Speaker, it will surprise you to note that no one taxes a medium of exchange or a store in value. Just like, Mr. Speaker, you cannot tax somebody for holding Ghana cedi. You cannot tax somebody for holding credit card. Neither can you tax somebody for holding a debit card. In the same vein, you cannot tax somebody for using mobile money account as a medium of exchange. No one does that. So, Honorable Minister, you've got it completely wrong. Mr. Speaker, simple terms, we all know that most of the Ghanaian traders uses mobile money account as their wallet for the purposes of keeping their working capital. Just like any other upstream trader will use their bank account for keeping their working capital. The petty traders uses mobile money wallet for the purposes of saving their working capital. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, this government, instead of targeting the upstream people, is rather targeting the ordinary Ghanaian. Mr. Speaker, let me repeat that the structure and design of this tax makes it a poor man's tax. You are targeting the poor man for no reason. How can you be that insensitive? Mr. Speaker, I am disturbed for a simple reason that I cannot be part of a taxation that seeks to target the poor person. Mr. Speaker, we know the structure of our country. Why are you failing to tax the person holding credit card for the purposes of purchasing? Why are you failing to tax the person that is using checks for the purposes of transaction business? Mr. Speaker, why are you failing to tax the person holding debit card to transact business, but rather targeting the person using mobile money? Mr. Speaker, clearly, this means this tax is targeted at the ordinary Ghanaian. Mr. Speaker, apart from that, we know that most of the artisans uses mobile money wallet for the purposes of their savings. For their purposes of their savings. So Speaker, one, you cannot tax savings. You cannot tax savings. The ordinary man on the street uses mobile money account for the purposes of savings. So if you tax me, you are taxing savings. Mr. Minister, you should be interested in people saving because it is very beneficial to your economy. Rather, you are discouraging them from savings. Mr. Speaker, we also know that SNIT in particular has decided to use the mobile money service for the purposes of transacting their SNIT pension transactions. Mr. Speaker, sadly, when this bill passes, it will mean that you are taxing pensions, which is against our constitution. Mr. Speaker, let it be noted that we do not believe in this. Mr. Speaker, another thing that is very dangerous in this legislation is the fact that we've been called upon to legislate a clause that seeks to tax individual bank transfers. Mr. Speaker, if, for instance, I have a bank account and I've been called upon that, Mr. Speaker, I am transferring money from my personal wallet, my personal bank account, to say my wife's bank account, or to say my own mobile money account. Mr. Speaker, they are saying that they are going to tax me. Mr. Speaker, my concern is that this simply means that you are taxing me for moving money from my back pocket to my front pocket. How can you do that? How can you tax somebody for moving money from his front pocket to the back pocket? Mr. Speaker, this tax is simply not electronic tax. Mr. Speaker, this tax, for me, is a digital pocket tax. It's a tax that is seeking to take money from your pocket digitally. Mr. Speaker, I would say that the right name that should be given to this tax is a digital pocket tax. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, I do not believe it. Mr. Speaker, today we've been told that this tax can cure most of the sicknesses of this Ghanaian economy. Mr. Speaker, to the extent that this tax is more powerful than most of the herbal medicines that we have seen. Mr. Speaker, we are told that this tax can even cure my colleague, Honorable Okujetu Ablakwe's bald head. Mr. Speaker, this is a dangerous tax. Mr. Speaker, when this tax passes, probably, Mr. Speaker, my bald head will be able to be dealt with.
Honorable members, I understand, please, I understand the reaction of the House, because the one speaking rather refused to refer to his bald head. And he was afraid to refer to the bald head of the Speaker. So, as we say, it's the one you are stronger than that you always take to your in-laws' house. And so he's stronger than Honorable Ablakwa. So he decided to seek solace by using his bald head. But he too is carrying another bald head. So, Honorable Member, let's leave it there, and then you may continue. I am not going to allow any intervention, please.
You will hear from the association.
Mr. Speaker, during the budget debate, I have said that this economy is sick from what I call sardosis. I say this for a simple reason that this economy is suffering from what we call stagflation, coupled with acute debt overhang. And Mr. Speaker, the minister and the ministers from the Ministry of Finance have often said that this single tax policy is what will cure our sickness. Mr. Speaker, this sickness has become an endemic sickness, and I believe that this e-levy alone cannot cure the sickness. I urge the minister to come with a comprehensive package in restoring economic stability and not to concentrate as if e-levy is the panacea of our economic problems. So, Speaker, I do not believe it. And I say this for technical reasons. I've sat on these numbers night in, night out. And I can conclude by saying that I do not believe that this single tax policy will cure our problems. Mr. Speaker, we need a bigger policy initiative that seeks to address the major strategic importance that we are missing in this economy. And most importantly, Mr. Speaker, to address the major structural differences, strategic differences that we have in this economy and to address them properly. So, Speaker, let me say that this tax is equivalent to ACOBAM. We are saying that utiya uya e-levy, uyefunya uya e-levy, wokwanya uya e-levy, utiya uya e-levy. So, Speaker, everything is e-levy. Even our salaries. Mr. Speaker, to the extent that Honorable Ken will need e-levy to be well. Every single person here utiya uya e-levy. Mr. Speaker, I have a back pain. Now they are telling me that I need e-levy to fix my problem. Mr. Speaker, that cannot be the case. That cannot be the case. Mr. Speaker, growing up, there was a particular herbal medicine called ACOBAM. That cures everything. That cures everything. I never thought that we are going to have an economic policy that is equivalent to ACOBAM. Today we have ACOBAM in e-levy that will seek to cure every sickness in this economy. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by saying that, and by repeating, that we in the NDC we are not against taxation. Mr. Speaker, we are against this particular tax. We are against this particular tax for a technical reason. And we believe that posterity will vindicate us. Mr. Speaker, it is nothing but technical reasons. Mr. Speaker, it is not personal. Neither is it is a sabotage against, not a sabotage against the economy. But Mr. Speaker, rather, we are pointing the government in the right direction. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the Hansard, I have often supported tax policies. And all of us, we have often supported tax policies that are progressive. But we do not believe that a tax policy must be designed in such a way that will target the poor person. Mr. Speaker, I will conclude by saying that the NDC's position is that don't tax Momo. Don't tax Momo. Don't tax Momo. And we are going to vote against it. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, it's now the turn of Honorable Abina Osei Asare, Deputy Minister for Finance. I am advised to give you 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this all-important revenue measure that we believe will help this nation and help us close our gap between our tax to GDP ratio. Mr. Speaker, we all strive for development in this country, but looking at our current tax to GDP ratio, there is no way we can move forward unless we do something about it. That is why we want to introduce the electronic transaction levy, not a Momo levy, but electronic transaction levy that we believe will help, one, rope in the informal sector and also tax monies that needs to be taxed to enable us inch towards the OECD, our counterparts target of about 16 to 20% of our tax to GDP ratio. Mr. Speaker, I also want to move to one thing that is very, very important to me. What happened to the can-do spirit of Ghanaians? Previously, many of our tax or revenue measures were being influenced greatly by government partners. without considering the rigidities in our own economy. But this is a homegrown tax measure which we believe will go a long way after having considered other equally important things that we need to consider in the economy. We believe that if this revenue measure is allowed to, is passed and implemented, it will go a long way to help us address certain issues that have come up as a result of the global crisis and domestic issues as well. We are looking at this tax, among other things, will help us, one, close the infrastructure gap, two, help us acquire some skills and knowledge and capital for the youth, and also address high debt levels as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the financial sector bailout. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge my brothers on the other side to also look at it favorably if they really love the country, and make sure we address this homegrown, we pick this homegrown solution and address the challenges that we are facing as a result of both global challenges and domestic challenges as well. Mr. Speaker, we have been to several places and we've had town hall meetings, and all you hear them say is that what they want to see is transparency and effectiveness in the utilization of these tax revenues. Luckily for us, Mr. Speaker, we have Parliament here to do the oversight responsibility for us. We have the Auditor General, and we have other support systems in the Ministry of Finance to help us in this regard. But, Mr. Speaker, before I conclude, I want to discuss one very important thing that goes on around, that I believe are misconceptions that people are spreading about the e-levy. One is that I know nobody, be it in Ghana or across the world, nobody likes to pay taxes. But it is necessary if you want to move your nation forward. It is necessary to contribute to your domestic revenue. So one, I know people are concerned that the electronic transaction levy will take away some hard-earned money from them. But however, this government is very considerate and has taken all those things into consideration. That is why this government is saying that it is exempting these category of workers, these category of lines. One, the act ensures that no one gets levied. Please listen very carefully. No one gets levied for moving their own cash from one wallet to the other, or from one bank account to another bank account, provided it is registered in your own name and you used your Ghana card. So I have cleared that misconception. Nobody is taxed when you move your own money from one wallet to the other, or one bank account to the other, provided you have registered it with your Ghana card and it is in your own name. So that misconception has been taken away. Again, also, the exemptions for transfers between principals, agents, master agents, or the special merchant accounts means that the fear that mobile agents, money issuers, and banks and key actors in the value chain will be affected has also been taken care of. So that misconception too has been overruled. Nobody in that value chain will lose money, job, or livelihoods, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, again, the 100 Ghana cedis cumulative transfer a day protects the less to do, or what we say, the ordinary Ghanaians, and enables them to continue to send money without the risk of being taken out of the digital economy. So that is also very important. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, all payment of taxes and other government-related payments done on the Ghana.gov is also exempt from paying these taxes. So government has taken all these things into consideration. So, Mr. Speaker, I want all of us to join hands. This is a homegrown solution that we should all embrace, and together we can make our country better. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you so much, Deputy Minister for Finance, for using less than 10 minutes. It's now the turn of Honorable Isaac Adongo. Honorable Member, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, and I thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise to, in all honesty and with a very emotionally distressed mood, reject unequivocally the e-levy. Mr. Speaker, we all agree that they've run this country into a ditch. We all agree that they have damaged and compromised the future of our economy. We all agree that they have come to a point where out of 145 billion appropriation we gave them, only 6 billion less will run this country aground. Mr. Speaker, we have come to a point where the minister himself says that government is broke. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, rather than sounding at the risk of saying that we have been blackmailed through some of the comments of government to approve e-levy, by saying that if you don't approve e-levy, you won't pay school fees. If you don't approve e-levy, you won't get your salary. If you don't approve e-levy, you won't construct your roads. Are we being blackmailed to accept the misery? Mr. Speaker, I have read today that today is the president's birthday. And I wish him a happy birthday. But unfortunately, he has come to wish the whole of Ghana a very sad birthday. Mr. Speaker, he has marshaled all his troops to this chamber to deliver misery and rape the poor's little money. Mr. Speaker, it will go down as the president who chose a very memorable day to punish his own citizens with e-levy. Mr. Speaker, when we were all gearing up to support the Ghana Black Stars, we didn't know that what will make us not eat our supper is e-levy. And I want this message to go to the president, that he was elected to serve the people and not to punish them. The people have roundly rejected e-levy. Our constituents have given us clear instructions not to approve e-levy. And yet the president says he would impose e-levy whether you like it or not. And he will do it as a birthday present to himself. Mr. Speaker, only last week, the finance minister delivered a policy statement to the people of Ghana. It was a policy statement that eventually became very underwhelming because it was empty and provided no solutions. But even more was that the deception of government was very explicit in that statement. Mr. Speaker, in that statement, the minister says that he is cutting the budget by 20%. 20% of 149 billion appropriation gives us 29 billion Ghana cedis, Mr. Speaker. The minister said he would then cut discretionary expenditures such as goods and services and capital expenditure by a further 10%. Mr. Speaker, capital expenditure in the budget is 16 billion. So if he's taking 10% out of that, that will give us 1.6 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, the goods and services budget is 9 billion Ghana cedis, but included in that is free SHS. And the president says, even when you say review of SHS, it means cancel. So it means that the expenditure on free SHS has become non-discretionary. So I take 3 billion out of it, I'm left with 6 billion. Take 10% of that, that's 600 million. Mr. Speaker, if you add 600 million to 1.6 billion, you get 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. Add that to the 20% cut of 29 billion, and Mr. Speaker, the minister has proposed to cut 31.2 billion Ghana cedis from the budget. Mr. Speaker, your deficit is 37 billion. You are cutting off that deficit by about 31 billion. Mr. Speaker, your only deficit left is 2 billion. Why are you still crying over e-levy? Why are you still crying over e-levy when after cutting all of this, your deficit is only 6 billion? What type of mathematics did you do? So, Mr. Speaker, the minister proposed to cut, but he knows he's not cutting. That is why today they are here with e-levy. But, Mr. Speaker, the budget was brought here on the 17th of November 2021. Today is 29th March 2022. Approximately 4 months and over, this government says the only thing they know is e-levy. And they won't come to us to tell them where to get the money from. So they will spare the poor. After 4 months, you can't even think inside the box to find a solution. And you are still insisting that you will still take e-levy even if the people don't like it. Mr. Speaker, They turned this e-levy into the fancy ghost, the dilemma of the ghost. It was roaming everywhere apart from Parliament. This e-levy that was sick, the cure was here. You were roaming in Ho, you were roaming in Takrady, you were roaming in Tamal. With this ghost, he doesn't know his home. His home is here. Today you have come. This is where the home is. Mr. Speaker, all the monies that were wasted, if they were pulled together, would have solved a problem better than just pouring around. You cannot engage in wanton waste of public resources when you are pursuing to take money from the poor man's pocket. My honorable colleague has demonstrated to us that e-levy turns every single policy principles of taxation on its head. You are now teaching our students to learn something different that is not even in the textbooks. That e-levy now means taxing savings. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the report is very clear that anytime you do a transaction through the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement System, you will pay e-levy. What it means, Mr. Speaker, is that if you write a check and you don't personally go to the counter to cash it and you ask the bank to clear it, they will meet you at the gift and take the e-levy. So you are now encouraging us to go to the bank and take our money from the counter. Who does that in this modern era? Mr. Speaker, fortunately, whether it was by slip of tongue or by slip of the mouth, the Minister for Roads came here and told us what we have been fearing all this while. That e-levy is meant for government to collateralize into the future and take more borrowing money. Mr. Speaker, after you have borrowed to the point where you have been told that your biggest sickness is borrowing, you are so addicted to borrowing that you are struggling to withdraw. That all that you know is borrowing. And I liken this government to that of somebody who has taken apathy so much that he now has cirrhosis. The doctor says you are getting cirrhosis of the liver, so don't take apathy again. Then you wake up in the morning and you are feeling cold. You pass by the blue kiosk and take another quarter. And when you come and say, hey, you people say I shouldn't take apathy. When I took it, can't you say I'm now warm? You are on your way to death. Mr. Speaker, this borrowing that you are doing is what will kill this government and will kill this country. Please, if you don't have a future, leave the future for our children and our grandchildren. Don't destroy this country. Mr. Speaker, this is a government that came and all they know is collateralization. Get fund that was building schools, you have used it to go and collect money. Now, Get Fund is becoming a debt payment center and not a school construction entity. When you came ESLA, after you resisted ESLA and called it all names, another collateralization. Sino Hydro, Mr. Speaker, I am not sure the president has ever seen that bauxite buried in Yinehini, but he has already taken it to collect money. Mr. Speaker, the only thing now left, which we are rejecting, is that they want to now collateralize the poor man's pocket to collect money. Mr. Speaker, what is the crime of our people? What is our crime as a country? That we elected a group of people who don't know how to govern? That we elected a group of people who will not listen to us? That we elected a group of people who only know how to borrow? And in fact, when they even borrow, sometimes, the other time they went and borrowed, when Benin and Cote d'Ivoire refused to accept 5.6%, they collected 11% to come and eat kenke. And they were celebrating with kenke and fish. So that is your strong point. Your strong point is to borrow Ghana and borrow us to death. Mr. Speaker, today is a very sad day. If the president is listening, today there is a rallying cry from the people of Ghana for him to save us our pesos in our pocket. And the earlier the president will call all his troops that are gathered here, including the Minister of Finance, to go and do the other difficult business in his office and spare us this e-levy, the better it is for our country. Mr. Speaker, the market will only respond only for a while. Because your announcement of the intention, there's the intention to tax Momo. People are running away from Momo. Just the intention. So December, 3 billion, gone. January, 6.7 billion, gone. Just the intention alone has caused e-levy Momo to drop by almost 9.7 billion. Now, imagine you now proceed after this meeting that you had the confidence to even bring back e-levy is enough to come out for collapse Momo. Mr. Speaker, I am very sad. I'm emotionally distressed, particularly because I'm from a very rural constituency. And I know how it is to give the people just 20 cedis to survive. Unfortunately, there are people living in glass houses who don't know poverty. And so they will visit poverty on the poor. I wish they change their mind and withdraw e-levy so we can help them to solve the problems that they put this country into. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honorable member, you use exactly 10 minutes. So we move on to the next person. And it's now the turn of Honorable Kojo Opong Nkrumah, Minister for Information.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the motion and to speak in support of the motion. Mr. Speaker, revenue measures generally are not very popular with citizens, and especially when they come at hard times, they are not popular with citizens. Mr. Speaker, we are at a time when it remains a fact that the entire world is going through a tough time and Ghana is experiencing same. And if at this time we are asked to contribute as part of our responsibility to resolve the difficulties, it is only understandable that it will not find favor with some sections of the population. But Mr. Speaker, at the same time, we also have to remind ourselves that the Ghanaian believes in the principle of self-determination. If you ask the Ghanaian whether we should borrow our way out of our problems or contribute a little bit more out of our problems, the average Ghanaian, I believe, would say, let us share the responsibility to get out of our problems. Mr. Speaker, traditionally in our communities, and I believe for many of my colleagues who are here, in our very local communities, in our villages, the principle of self-responsibility, the principle of self-determination always plays out. We have what we do that we call Amenyuma or Kwasafujuma in the Akan areas. In the Dagomba areas, I'm told they call it Parba. In the Volta region, they call it Duduowo. It is the spirit, the culture of working together to resolve basic challenges around us, despite whatever state in which we find ourselves. Mr. Speaker, I want to end my contribution by just responding to a few issues that have come up in the national conversation. One is the supposition that the electronic transactions levy will lead to double taxation. Because if I finish paying my taxes on my income, why do I have to pay any further tax when I transfer that same money to somebody else? Mr. Speaker, in the same way, when I finish paying taxes on my income and I buy any other good that has value-added tax on it, the fact that I will pay taxes on that good or service does not mean that I'm being subjected to double taxation. Mr. Speaker, another argument has been made that it amounts to taxing savings or capital in people's wallets. We want to say for a fact that that is not true. Balances on wallets will not be subjected to this levy. Mr. Speaker, there's a claim that has been made that it will kill the Momo industry, so don't tax Momo. This same claim was made when the communication service tax was being introduced. It has never killed the industry. In fact, the industry has grown in bounds, and so it will not kill the industry. Mr. Speaker, finally, the poor have been taken out of it with a threshold implemented so that those who transfer less than 100 Ghana cedis a day will not pay this levy. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude by asking my colleagues here to support this levy because we Ghanaians believe in the principle of self-determination the principle of self-responsibility. I thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Minister for Information, we are grateful for your brief submission, just about 5 minutes. And so we'll move to the next person, and that is Honorable John Jinapo. 10 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, today history will be made. Yes. In fact, when I checked on Facebook, the number of people following us is unprecedented. This debate is not even about E-Levy. It's about who stands with the people of Ghana and who is against the people of Ghana. It's as simple as that. And so on this day, let the people of Ghana know that the minority side, under the able leadership of Honorable Haruna Idrisu, will stand with them, vote against E-Levy, remain resolute, resilient, and consistent with our conviction and principle. Mr. Speaker, we are not those who will tell the people of Ghana that Momo is back in the heat of the run-up to elections. And then when elections are over, they make a U-turn and turn around to tax the ordinary Ghanaian. What are we talking about? What we are saying is simple. My brother, Honorable Kojo Ponkroma, talks about if you buy something. Momo is not about purchases. And that is what the ranking member said. There are normally 3 levels of taxation. What you earn, such as wages and salaries. What you consume, that is what you talked about. And then wealth, that is property. So if I send money to my son in the school to take that money and go and buy books, and you want to tax that, you call that consumption? Mr. Speaker, that is insensitivity of the highest order. Mr. Speaker, when I send 1,000 Ghana to my son in school, this government is proposing to take 1.5 of that. When my son goes to buy textbooks, they still want to follow that money and take 1.5 of that. If my son goes to the pharmacy, and this is the worst of it, if he buys the medication, first of all, he pays for the medication. If says 100 cedi, he will pay a VAT on that 100 cedi. And when he decides that he wants to pay that VAT, that you government, you are charging, you still want to charge 1.5% on that tax that the son is paying. Mr. Speaker, this is what we call lazy man's economics, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today, this government promised us that we're going to reduce taxes from 25% to 20% in terms of corporate tax. They told us they were moving from taxation to production. Mr. Speaker, even before E-Levy is passed, they had already earmarked 242 million cedis as E-Levy transaction costs. So you've not even seen your wife, and yet you've already bought a mattress and a mat ready to chop that one. That is the issue we are dealing with, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in 2021, tax revenue was 55 billion. In 1 year, they want to increase the tax revenue by 45% to 80 billion. But the minister tells us that he's doing E-Levy because they want to create jobs. Go to the budget and look at the amount allotted for U-Start. That amount is just 5.7% of the total revenue we expect from E-Levy. How can you tell the people of Ghana that you are putting in E-Levy because you want to create jobs, but when it comes to the allotment of those monies, they don't even get 10% of that money? Mr. Speaker, in my opinion, this is deception of the highest order. Mr. Speaker, today, COVID has suffered in Ghana than how people have even suffered out of COVID. Because everything that happens, they blame it on COVID. I refer to the Bank of Ghana summary statistics, Mr. Speaker. So far, just in 1 year, cocoa price has moved up from 2,400. All our major exports, the prices have moved up. And yet our net reserves, where these monies go to, has dropped from 8 billion to 5 billion. Mr. Speaker, what is the true state of the Ghanaian economy today? Our deficit is the worst out of 40 African countries. Our debt to GDP has risen to 80.1%. The cedi today is known as the worst performing currency in Africa. Inflation is at 15%. Petrol prices have gone up by 66% in just 1 year. Just this year. In Ghana, our petrol price is the highest out of 33 African countries. Transport fares have gone up by 15%. Our total debt now stands at 351 billion. Mr. Speaker, having put the people of Ghana through this misery, through this difficulty, why then do you want to tax their little money that they put on their mobile money account? Why? Mr. Speaker, why? Mr. Speaker, why? But it's proper that we put things in perspective. In all these matters, Mr. Speaker, the head of the economic management team, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, has remained in a state of comatose. He has been silent. Prior to the elections, he was organizing lecture after lecture, town hall after town hall. Having won the election, the vice president has vamoosed and sublimed into thin air. Between the vice president and the minister of finance, who supports Momo? Because not quite long ago, the vice president told us that he doesn't support mobile money taxation. So what has changed? The center cannot hold. It is clear, Mr. Speaker, that the center cannot hold. That the economic management team under President Akufo-Addo, their performance has been the worst performance in the history of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, the failure on the part of this government is legendary. And I say it is legendary because today, Mr. Speaker, how to put even 3 square meals on the table, it's a major issue. MPs are here. The fuel, if you bought 400 cedi worth of fuel, it filled your tank. Today you have to buy 800 cedi worth of fuel with the same amount. Mr. Speaker, cement prices have gone up. Iron rods have gone up. The ordinary market woman is suffering. The ordinary driver is suffering. Kenke has not only increased in price, it has also reduced in size. Mr. Speaker, this is the true state of the Ghanaian economy. And instead of government to think of how to cushion the ordinary Ghanaian, your main principle is to tax, 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 and tax. Mr. Speaker, in 2001, the minister was here. He told us that because of COVID, he wanted to introduce 5 mainline tax items. He introduced COVID levy, he introduced sanitation levy, he introduced energy sector recovery levy, he dealt with the VAT flat rate, and introduced so many other levies and taxes. Mr. Speaker, despite all these taxes, Mr. Speaker, he is back again, following the 2021 budget and the approval of all these long taxes that I've listed. He is back again to ask for further taxes in respect of E-Levy. Mr. Speaker, what we are looking at is simple. Let me encourage the members on the majority side. I know some of you have a big heart. I know some of you are not part of the insensitive group. I know some of you are concerned about your constituents. Be bold, stand up and be counted. Mr. Speaker, I want to call on them. Be bold, stand up and be counted. Be bold. Mr. Speaker, join us to say no to Momo taxation. Let me encourage the finance minister. Mr. Finance Minister, managing this economy, it's not just about quoting Bible verses to us. Thank you very much for your Bible quotation. But when you quote the Bible, you must follow that with action, principles, programs, and projects. Thank you. I am convinced that even with this E-Levy, whether it is passed or not, you are on the way into opposition come 2024. On that note, Mr. Speaker, let me welcome you and thank you and wish you well. Thank you very much.
Yes. I thank honourable member for using exactly 10 minutes, and I will proceed now to suspend sitting for 30 minutes. Members, you will reconvene within 30 minutes for us to conclude this. Sitting is accordingly suspended for 30 minutes.